Unbelievable! Howard Berg, the world's fastest reader in the Guinness Book of Records, demonstrates his mega reading technique on national TV.
And you read this. You read this. Anybody who gets this course from yours can do what you just did.
You already have the ability. I'm just showing you how to release it.
Now, unlock your natural ability to quadruple your reading speed and remember everything you read with the amazing Mega Reading Home Study course.
I highly endorse and recommend this program. Howard is the world's fastest reader. There's nothing out there like it anywhere in the world. It'll work for anyone about 8 to 10 years and up. If you have a student in your life, you need to get it for them. If you're in business, if you read papers, if you like to read novels, you'll learn this information, you'll read it quickly, and you'll be able to recall it.
The amazing Mega Reading technology turns your eyes into a wide-angle camera so you can virtually photograph pages as fast as you can turn them. Imagine how much time you'll save when you read books, magazines, and newspapers in a fraction of the time. For business, school, or pleasure, anyone can release their super mega reading ability.
The former president of Evelyn Wood asked me to train his family. Now, this is a man who knows speed reading.
Mega reading is so powerful, it's even been endorsed by Maurice Thompson Jr., former president of Evelyn Wood.
His son quadrupled. I think he went from 2 to 860 words a minute in less than 4 hours.
Anyone can learn the amazing mega reading secrets of the world's fastest reader. There's nothing else like it. In less than 4 hours, you'll become a mega reader too.
Folks, you heard this. You can call right now, get Howard's program. It takes just a few short hours. It's easy, it's fun, anybody can do it. You'll be the greatest conversationalist. Kids get straight A's with less study time. You'll make more money in business because you'll be able to remember all the information.
Don't be left behind. Unlock your natural ability to quadruple your reading speed. Call the number on your screen and order Mega Reading. It really works. Not available in stores. Money back if you aren't astounded. Call now.
Kevin Trudeau. You may have seen his face before, as once he was an late-night infomercial god. Selling all sorts of different things. But he's mostly known for his books, which offered things like cures for diseases, as well as debt solutions they don't want you to know about. Now you might be saying, who is they? You know, they, them, those guys. In all actuality, Trudeau is probably the one you should be most concerned about, not some ridiculous conspiracy nonsense, because he is a career scammer, attaining near legendary status in his particular trade of simply ripping people off. He is, truthfully, a savant at this, finding ways to repeatedly make money from people who don't really know any better. Trudeau was adopted, and his exact birthday isn't known, but it was either 1962 or 1963, and his adoptive parents were Robert and Mary Trudeau. He attended St. Mary's High School in Lynn, Massachusetts, where he was indeed voted most likely to succeed by the class of 1981. And, in a way, that was true, but probably not in the manner that anyone expected. See, as I said, Trudeau isn't dumb. He's actually quite smart, but he applied his intelligence in an unscrupulous manner. He's very charismatic, and that combined with his intelligence and lack of moral fiber meant he spent the majority of his adult life finding new ways to take people's money. Though early on, he was pretty dumb about it, if I'm being brutally honest. He started out with a legitimate career as a used car salesman, which, I mean, honestly, isn't that like the best stereotype way of, hey, this is how I learned to scam people? I mean, I know plenty of used car salesmen aren't necessarily scammers, but there is a stereotype for that. But eventually he got bored of that, as that could be perceived as be somewhat honest and a legitimate career. Instead, he started selling memory improvement techniques. What? This is his first foray into medical pseudoscience, selling people on alternative medicine, which is probably what he's most well known for. But during that time, he got greedy and decided that he was going to deposit $80,000 in bogus checks while impersonating a doctor. In 1991, he also pled guilty to 11 counts of credit card fraud. Not starting off that well in terms of the honesty department. But after this, he would start being clever about his scams. He was released from prison in 1993 and immediately joined a multi-level marketing firm known as Nutrition for Life. Now, a multi-level marketing firm, sometimes called an MLM, is a corporate structure that basically makes revenue from their non-salaried workforce. The workforce pays the company to get the products, and they sell the products for a profit themselves. But the end result here is usually that the bottom-tier employees don't make hardly anything, and they keep giving their money to the company that doesn't actually have to do any of the selling. If that sounds like a pyramid scheme, that's because it basically is. A pyramid scheme stays afloat as long as they keep recruiting new members with the promises of success. They pay the company their entry fee as well as fees for seminars and things like that in order to teach them how to sell and make their own money. But the truth is that the vast majority of these individuals never make anything, and the company gets all of it. Nutrition for Life, truthfully, is kind of its own story. It's pretty long. But in terms of what Trudeau did, he was basically one of their suppliers. He worked with them to sell his pseudoscience crap. And when Nutrition for Life was basically outed as being a pyramid scheme, he bailed and went down his own road, marketing his all-natural cures on late-night television infomercials. He had a pretty wide range of products on offer. Things like hearing aids, dietary supplements, baldness remedies, addiction treatments, those memory improvement courses, and even real estate investment strategies. The dietary supplements are where it gets interesting because he also pushed something called coral calcium. Now, coral calcium is a real thing. It's a salt of calcium, derived from fossilized coral reefs, and it has been promoted as an alternative treatment for a number of different health conditions, up to and including cancer. But, as you might expect, it doesn't do basically anything. There's no evidence that coral calcium really affects you in any real way. It doesn't actually treat basically anything. It's a placebo at best. The vast majority of his broadcasts had a whole bunch of unsubstantiated claims just like this one, and he was fined in 1998. Those fines were pushed forward by the FTC. It involved commercials that included things like a breakthrough that in 60 seconds can eliminate addictions, which was discovered by Dr. Callahan. Who's that? We don't know, but he's a doctor, definitely, and he found it when he was studying quantum physics! It sounds ridiculous, but people were falling for this, and even after the fine, $500,000 mind you, Trudeau trucked forward. It wasn't until June of 2003 the FTC filed another complaint against Trudeau, as well as some of his companies, in this instance leaning on that coral calcium nonsense. Initially, he entered into a stipulated preliminary injunction that prohibited him from continuing to make those claims about coral calcium, but he violated it, and he was held in contempt of court. In 2004, he agreed to pay $2 million to settle the charges, and he agreed to a lifetime ban on promoting products using infomercials. But they left him an out. While they did ban him from selling products via infomercials, they didn't ban him from promoting books, and the books somewhat fell under free speech. They couldn't necessarily ban him from writing these books, nor did they choose to ban him from promoting them. So in 2004, he began down his path of books. The first one he published was a medical guide, of course, titled Natural Cures They Don't Want You to Know About, which hit the shelves in 2005. His infomercial method for promoting it was actually genius, because the infomercial was disguised. It didn't appear to be an infomercial at first. It appeared to be a late-night talk show, where Trudeau was giving a candid interview about his book and how the FTC and the FDA, the government, they were trying to silence him. He actually used the fact that he was found guilty of fraud as a way to make it seem like, no. See, I'm trying to tell the truth. They're the ones who are lying. This is all a conspiracy. And that sort of thing can appeal to a certain group of people, especially when we're talking about the medical field, where there are desperate individuals looking for some kind of hope, some kind of way to cure their ailments that medical science can't necessarily fix overnight. Trudeau promised natural cures to certain things, hidden by the powers that be because that might affect their profit margins. Those dastardly evil Illuminati! And the heck of it is, it worked. That book became a bestseller, selling 5 million copies. But when people actually read it, they found that actually there were no natural cures in the book at all. Now seriously, it really didn't have hardly anything that was helpful, and Trudeau said he couldn't include them because of threats by the FTC. So he wrote a book on natural cures, sold it, didn't have any natural cures, and then he said he couldn't include those because of the FTC. Okay, so see, this is what we call false advertising, though. You're not actually selling anything. It's a book of nothing. Thank you for that. Now, 2 years after this debacle, he would get a bit bolder. He published a second medical book titled More Natural Cures Revealed, Previously Censored Brand Name Products That Cure Disease. In this particular book, the claim was made that animals in the wild rarely develop degenerative conditions like cancer or Alzheimer's, which is... No, they just don't live very long with those conditions, so it's rarely seen, but they happen. He also says that a lot of diseases aren't caused by viruses or bacteria at all, but rather an imbalance in vital energy. This vital energy claim relates to something called vitalism. It's a belief that starts from the premise that living organisms are fundamentally different from non-living entities because they contain some non-physical element and or are governed by different principles than are inanimate things. It's a lot of pseudoscience, and no, he followed this up with the weight loss cure they don't want you to know about. This time, he did describe a weight loss plan that was proposed by a British endocrinologist, A.T.W. Simmons, back in the 1950s. This particular plan involved the injection of human chorionic gonadotropin, or HCG. It was a hormone for the maternal recognition of pregnancy. Thing was, over time it was found that the HCG diet really didn't actually help. In 1976, the FTC had indeed ordered clinics and promoters of that diet to inform their patients that there had been no substantial evidence that the HCG offered any benefit that was better than simply a restricted calorie diet, otherwise known as just a regular diet. Just eat a salad. You don't have to inject yourself with pregnancy hormones. Well, this time Trudeau got himself into trouble. The FTC was still after him, and they claimed that by bringing up HCG, those misrepresentations violated the 2004 consent order. He didn't go to prison just yet, though. He still had time to write debt cures they don't want you to know about. But this particular book is less controversial for the most part, because the vast majority of the information in this particular book isn't anything that's hidden. It's not that they don't want you to know about them. To be honest, most of the advice is legitimate and readily available in personal finance columns you can find for free online. The only thing in there that was pretty radical was that Trudeau points out that if his readers disagree with items in their credit reports, they could dispute them as identity theft. This particular technique was the magic cure, referenced in the title of the book, but here's the thing about that. If you were to, say, knowingly dispute something as identity theft in your credit report, even though it's something you bought, or a loan you got, like it's not identity theft, and you know that's fraud. I'm not a legal expert, but I'm fairly confident that there's something criminal about doing that, you know? So, I don't recommend that particular piece of advice, but, you know, it's Trudeau. He doesn't have any scruples about breaking the law. In 2009, he published another book, which was probably a lot weirder than all the rest, though. This time it was titled Your Wish is Your Command. The book promotes something called the Law of Attraction. It's a New Thought spiritual belief that basically says that positive or negative thoughts bring positive or negative experiences into a person's life. Now, again, it's a spiritual belief. It's not backed by anything scientific. All it basically says is that if you think good things will happen. And if you think bad things will happen. positive attitude. Woo, yeah, it's great. That doesn't always really work in the realest of senses. I mean, having a positive attitude is a good thing, probably, but I wouldn't say it magically causes things to happen that are good. Bad things happen to good people all the time. This is life. This is the way it is. But of course he promotes all this nonsense, and he makes some false claims about himself. He says he flunked out of high school, which no, he did not, and then claims that he was taken in by a mysterious, secretive group known as the Brotherhood. And they taught him the secrets that he is now giving to the reader through this book. What? And in the middle of his book writing, he took the time to start, well, admittedly at face value, kind of a legitimate business. The International Pool Tour, or IPT. The International Pool Tour was basically intended to be a nationally syndicated sports championship featuring billiards. He wanted to transform billiards into a major league sport. And while that might sound silly to some of you, keep in mind that golf is a major league sport and is very successful. It makes a ton of money, and the IPT was modeled off of the PGA Tour. It does make some sense, purely because the PGA has been successful. Both sports, while somewhat different, do involve a much slower game that has precision and planning, not action-packed like soccer or football or basketball. But people do watch golf, so the notion of doing that with billiards isn't necessarily outside the realm of possibilities, but naturally it was horrifically mismanaged, and Trudeau was accused of basically pocketing a whole bunch of the investor money and not actually caring about making the thing a successful business. Which is hilarious because this probably could have worked, and he probably could have, in the long run, made a ton of money off of a very legitimate business model, completely turning his life around, but he just couldn't resist the call of the scam. 2007, he was found in contempt of that 2004 court order due to patently false claims in his weight loss book. And though he tried to appeal it, that failed. And then he tried to appeal the fine, and that failed. And he got a whole bunch of other contempt citations over the years. But in a nutshell, Trudeau wouldn't listen to the court. He kept doing whatever he wanted, wouldn't pay the fines, kept filing appeals, stalling, delaying. And in March of 2014, he was finally sentenced to 10 years in prison. Mind you, this was only for the contempt, and that's a pretty long time for a contempt of court conviction. But the judge, Renaud Guzman, was allegedly visibly irritated with Trudeau by this point, and honestly, I don't blame him. Trudeau had spent the whole time lying and trying to get out of everything, and the judge clearly had had enough of him, figuring that maybe a lengthy prison sentence might actually get him to stop being an idiot for 1 minute, but, you know, no, he doesn't do that. Oh yeah, he also wrote another book called Free Money they don't want you to know about. He doesn't have any free money. Sorry to disappoint you. Just thought I should mention that. He was found in contempt because of the claims in that book, too. But the thing about Trudeau is that, as I said, he's very charismatic. Even when he was found guilty and thrown in prison, he had a lot of fans and followers that were dedicated to him, believing that he'd been right the whole time. They actually fell for all his lies and all his ridiculous claims, and continued to take donations for his defense fund, even going as far as to compare his imprisonment with people like Nelson Mandela, which... No, one of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. I don't think that's a fair comparison in any way. He was eventually released, though. He left federal custody in 2022 after 8 years in the slammer, but he still owed a $37.6 million fine. The US government tried to seize cash and other things that Trudeau might have hidden, but they struggled to find much. And Trudeau was held in contempt of court again when he failed to appear. Dude just cannot stop. And as far as I can tell, he's currently out. He's not in prison at the moment. Whether or not he's paid that fine is anyone's guess. But, he's on YouTube? Yeah! His last upload as of the making of this video was about 3 weeks ago. It honestly does make sense for him, given his particular modus operandi, because the infomercials, as successful as they were, cost him money to syndicate. But YouTube doesn't cost anything, and there are billions of people watching. It's effectively a free way to get his crap out there. But if this video wasn't enough for you, let me just reiterate, don't buy anything from Kevin Trudeau. He is a repeated, proven, consistent con man. The dude has spent his entire adult life finding new ways to rip people off. He offers things like cancer treatments, all-natural cures, and appeals to the demographic that simply doesn't trust the government or the machine, the man's machine. And whether or not you think that the powers that be are flawed or you trust them or whatever it is, let me just say this, that's irrelevant. Trudeau is also proven to be a con as well. He's taking advantage of you. Don't give him any money for anything, okay? And with that, a special thank you goes out to all my underwater train finders. Some Dude 267, Benjamin Owens, Anzac A1, Arthur Roy, Jack Carson's Railroad Videos, Lord Off 444, Isurfer 1405, Charles Kwiatkowski, Matt Weaver, Tom Red Lion, Ennis Productions 8104, Wheeljack 8401, Rescues Greyhounds, The Baxter, Caleb Crosswhite, Josh Johnson, Caleb Brainwaters, Prez Drenton, Master of None, Travis Delinsky, JBL Explorers, Tommy Rossini, Ben McCullough, Panzer Kitsune 131-232, Mark Holding, Mr. Terrevel, Hayden DeGrow, Bad Train Puns Are Best, Kurt Forkham, Mr. Sleepy, Harry, Drew Debris, George Kenny, Kevin Wood, Liam Wright, Hendrick Motorsports Fan 5, Hannah Bird, Duraushi, A Person 723, William Nemo, Dr. Racer 78, Shimasu, Metal for Life Guy, Andrew Bowen, Crimson Rose, Ryan Wehofer, Zintac M, Boss K, Orange Glass, Andy, The Conceptualist, Ohio Trucker 1, Windy City Rails, John Videolaw, AET Museum, NJ 1969, Extra Special J, Jonathan Coco, Kieran Tibbets, DFL Church, Murder Drone Stall, Bob Kondirk, Your Mom Liked It, Jared Brussel, Caden Alvey, Levi Anderson, and of course, my dad. Till next time, this is Darkness, and I bid you all a fun farewell.